They play me just a bunch of notes like da-na-na, da-na-na, and I say, whoa, what is this? Hi, I'm Benny Benassi, and this is the story of Satisfaction. If I want to tell you about the story of Satisfaction, I have to go back before the release of the song. So I was resident DJ in Italy, and Ale was musician, and he play in a band, a classic band. So during the weekend, I asked to Ale sometimes to come with me and play saxophone in the club during my show, during my set. At the time, we lived in the same building, so we decided to open a home studio together. We start to try to make this home studio with a sample. I remember it was an Akai, maybe 900 or 1000, and the keyboard was a Roland M1. It was really famous for the bass line at that time, and a little computer. So I remember when my cousin came in the studio after his little tour in Tunisia, and he played me just a bunch of notes like da-na-na, da-na-na, and I say, whoa, what is this, Ale? And he said me, yeah, you know, yesterday I was in Tunisia and I played clarinet on my room, and there was a traffic jam under the street, and I just fixed on my brain this bunch of notes like da-na-na, da-na-na, and I say, wow, this is crazy. We can start from here. At that time, we worked with the Logic and with the sound card from Pro Tools. The Logic with the sound card of Pro Tools, they made something strange in the compression. And this was, I think, the lucky thing of the story. The compression was really strange. When you put the kick, boom, the music goes down. When you take off the kick, the music goes. Maybe it was not the real proper way to use the compressor. It was a kind of beginning of the sound change. And I remember a funny story because at that time there was not filter between DJ and the owner of the club. There was not a PR, artistic director, music director, no, nothing. There was owner of the club and DJ. And I remember that they played the song and the owner of the club come in the booth and say, hey, what the fuck is this music? This is techno. You know, this table is not happy, this table is not happy. And I say, yeah, come on, but this is my music. I love it. Look at the people.
Push me, and then just touch me, till I can get my satisfaction.
This is the beginning of the song. Satisfaction was just a clap track, instrumental track. I say to Ale, yeah, now we need a message, and we start to think about a singer or a rapper or some singer that, but at that time in Italy it was not easy. And we say, okay, we can try with this vocoder. This was, we did with the computer, and we did the voice, and this was the message.
Push me, and then just touch me, till I can get my satisfaction.
And it was released by Division. It's an Italian underground label, and the song became to be popular in Ibiza. The summer of 2002, I remember Carl Cox played, Fatboy Slim played the song, and also David. Pete Tong played the song on the radio. It was strange. And so, Minister of Sound, they took the song and they say, okay, this is good for UK. And they released, I think around September, October. And this was crazy because the midweek on the chart, we were number 1 on the chart, on the sales chart. And Beyoncé was number 2. And they said, oh, was crazy. It was completely crazy for me. And of course, at the end of the week, we were number 2 and Beyoncé was number 1. So when the song was number 2 in UK, and they call us you remember maybe the big TV show, Top of the Pop. I remember when we arrived in the Top of the Pop, I shared the backstage with Craig David. So for me, it was a kind of dream, you know, because Craig David was with us on the Top of the Pop, and we were on the TV with the girl with these power tools. You remember the video with it? Say, oh my God, this is really crazy.
Satisfaction. Satisfaction.
So Satisfaction was released in the 2002, now it's 20 years. Wow, it's crazy. And David was one of the first DJs that placed the original ones at that time in France, also in Ibiza. We talk about the whole song that we need maybe remix, and I say, yeah, why not? We can do something together, maybe we can try to do something, a new version of Satisfaction. Around June, send me a kind of rough mix. The atmosphere at the beginning and the end is real house music, and so it's real fresh.
Thank you so much.
It's super cool because now all the young DJ, all the guys, they can play again, because the sound is proper for now. After 20 years, there's another life of the song. It's always crazy.